A startling statistic.
It's giving Canada and us in Vancouver a really bad name, so it's a problem for everyone.
Anti-Asian hate crimes jump more than 700% in Vancouver. How the province plans to fight back.
The Premier's reassuring people next in line for vaccines.
I want British Columbians to be confident that as vaccines become available, we have a plan in place.
And he says these doses are coming soon, and so are details about that plan.
Hopefully at the end of the day, we'll have a very positive outcome here, but don't give up hope.
Thursday marks 1 month since she's been missing. Port Moody's Trina Hunt was last seen at her home in the Heritage Mountain area on January 18th. Just ahead, where police are at in the investigation and how it's affecting the community.
Good evening and welcome to City News at 6. We begin with some breaking news. Just days after releasing this surveillance video, police have now made an arrest in connection with a random stranger attack in Vancouver's West End. It happened just before 10 o'clock last Saturday night in Maxine Lane. It's just south of Davie between Butte and Thurlow Streets. A 24-year-old woman was walking home when she was grabbed from behind by a man. She was able to get away and the man took off. A 57-year-old man was arrested this morning, and investigators are recommending charges. He was released on conditions until he appears in court. A sex worker has some non-life-threatening injuries, but is quite shaken up after being assaulted in Surrey's Kwantlen Park on Tuesday. Just before 7 o'clock that night, the woman met a man near 132nd Street and 105th Avenue so they could walk to the park. When they got there, he brought out a weapon and started sexually assaulting her. He left before police arrived. Investigators say they chose to disclose that the woman was a sex worker as they are concerned for others who are part of this vulnerable group.
A new report from the Vancouver Police Department paints a troubling picture of the city during the pandemic. Last year, anti-Asian hate crimes increased by more than 700%.
I think it catalyzed in me this rage.
Trixie Ling was walking along Great Northern Way in Vancouver last May when a stranger began shouting obscenities and racial slurs at her. He then spat in her face. Time has passed, but the hurt remains.
Having a white man spat on my face, I feel it in my body, in my emotion, in my thoughts.
Ling's ordeal, one of many. New numbers from the Vancouver Police show reports of anti-Asian hate crimes jumped 717% in 2020. A disturbing side effect of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Every one of us has to look into the mirror and say, what have I done? What can I do to help reduce this type of hate crime, because it impacts people and it impacts the entire community.
BC's Premier troubled by the statistics. John Horgan promises the NDP will move forward with anti-racism legislation.
We need to make sure that violence against people of color is not just treated as violence, but in fact hate crimes, which carry much stiffer penalties, more difficulty in prosecutions, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't follow through.
Anti-racism advocates say enforcement is just the start. Education is also critical, but they say real change will come once minorities are better represented in government, working to root out systemic racism that's been in BC since the beginning.
With Asian immigrants, Chinese, Japanese immigrants. So that has a long history and is almost like embedded.
No arrests were made in Trixie Ling's case. She can live with that, as long as her story prevents someone else from feeling that same pain.
This is the work that we have to do to speak out, to be empowered and to talk about what is happening so we can actually do the work of ending racism and oppression and white supremacy.
We recently sat down with a veteran member of the Vancouver Police Department to see how the VPD is responding to this spike in anti-Asian hate crimes. You can hear what Deputy Chief Constable Howard Chow has to say about it in a new documentary called Veracity, in their own words. It airs Monday night on City TV. In Vancouver, Travis Prasad, City News.
It's really distressing, actually. It's really sad.
Shut up, Stu. Yo.
It's a video gaining traction online showing children using racist slurs against a black teenager in Metro Vancouver. We'll tell you what happened and why the victim is being commended for how she handled the situation.
There's a big jump in our province's daily case count, with 617 new cases of COVID-19 being reported tonight, and 4 more people have died in the last day. 224 people are in hospital and 60 are in intensive care. More than 180,000 doses of the vaccine have been administered in BC. The Vancouver Police Department is dealing with 5 cases of COVID-19, forcing 27 sworn and civilian members to self-isolate due to potential exposure. 3 of the cases are within one team at the department near Boundary Road. The 2 others involve employees at 2 different locations. Vancouver police say they've taken all the necessary steps to conduct appropriate contact tracing and ensure the exposure is contained. More than 24 COVID-19 cases have now been linked to a recent trivia night at a popular pub in Port Moody. The weekly game night at St. James Well Pub on February 2nd prompted an inspection by WorkSafe BC, and its head of prevention services confirmed certain public safety orders were not being followed. The owners of the pub have not yet responded to numerous requests for comment from News 1130.
Now, most people living in long-term care in British Columbia are vaccinated. People are getting impatient, waiting for details about how the next group, those over 80 in the community, will start getting their shots.
I understand and appreciate anxiety and frustration, but it's not from lack of giving information. It's about a lack of information. If we had it, we would tell you.
The good news is, after delays in vaccine shipments this month, Ottawa's committed to getting provinces the doses they're promised by the end of next month.
We're holding them to that, and I expect that will happen. Now, the challenge, of course, is that if we're advised that we're going to receive vaccines on a Wednesday, and we start booking appointments for elderly, in this case in their 80s, for Thursday, and the supply doesn't show up, that disrupts our vaccination plan, and we're concerned about that.
But there is a solid plan, he says, and following meetings with the feds, more information is expected Friday.
We are reaching out through our health authorities to communities across British Columbia to put in place the infrastructure to meet the expectations of the public, and I'm confident, should supply arrive, that we'll be able to meet those expectations.
Phase 2 vaccinations are slated to start here in March. For City News in Victoria, I'm News 1130's Lisa Yuzda.
We're now coming out of this period of limited supplies into an abundance of supplies.
Is this the turning point for Canada's lagging coronavirus vaccination campaign? The new timeline for doses after weeks of delays.
RCMP in Surrey are out with a warning after a number of overdoses in the city, and one of them was deadly. Police were called to a home just after 2 o'clock this morning near 106th Avenue and 140th Street. They tried to save a 46-year-old woman, but she ended up dying. Half an hour later, RCMP were called to a shelter in the city center area where 2 people overdosed after injecting the same unknown drug. The duo was revived with Narcan. Police are reminding people not to use drugs alone and call 911 if someone is overdosing. In November, a similar warning went out about a possible unknown bad batch of drugs. A man is dead and 1 person has been arrested after some kind of altercation at a home in Surrey last night. Police arrived at the house on 125th Street south of 68th Avenue at around 8:30 and found a man outside who was critically injured. Officers and paramedics couldn't save him. Homicide investigators are now on the case. They say the victim and the suspect were members of the same household. The nature of their relationship hasn't been revealed.
It's been 1 month since she disappeared. Port Moody's Trina Hunt was last seen on January 18th at her home in the Heritage Mountain area. Her husband reported her missing later that day when he returned home from work.
There's been a lot of attention placed on this case, and we're very, very perplexed right now with regards to what happened to her, where she went, and where she is right now.
Police and community efforts to find the 48-year-old have so far uncovered very little. But 1 month into the search, Port Moody police say investigators are still focused focused on the case.
It's active and ongoing, and we're certainly continuing to gather evidence every day that we're out there.
In a statement released Wednesday, police say investigators are pursuing all possible avenues of investigation. But the case does not meet the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team's mandate to investigate suspicious missing person cases where foul play is suspected.
We've come to the conclusion that IHIT can no longer continue to assist us because we don't have any evidence of foul play.
Hunt's disappearance has been high profile. Community volunteers canvassed the area for clues and put up posters early on in the investigation. Information about her disappearance has been shared widely on social media.
Given my experiences, the police are doing their utmost to try and solve this particular case, and I'm sure that they're sharing as much information as possible.
Former Solicitor General and retired West Vancouver Police Chief Cash Heed says a case like this greatly impacts the community.
When this crime or a crime similar to this is not immediately solved, that fear is rampant among the community. And not only did we have this incident take place in Port Moody, but we've had others within the region.
Port Moody's mayor is reminding the public that the city is still a safe community.
In talking with the Port Moody Police Department, one of the takeaways that I got from the chief was just a reminder that Port Moody is the safest place in the Lower Mainland and has been for some time.
The mayor has a message for friends and family anxiously waiting for updates on the case.
On behalf of City Council, on behalf of the City of Port Moody and the Port Moody Police Board, our hearts go out to you. We are all rooting for a positive outcome here. And I do just want to confirm again that the Port Moody Police Department is working and putting a significant amount of resources behind this file. So I really hope to see some updates come out of the department soon.
Anyone with information on Trina Hunt's whereabouts is asked to contact police. In Port Moody, Miranda Fatour, City News.
It makes me teary every time. It really does. That some generous stranger made that decision.
There are over 737 people waiting for an organ transplant in BC. Beth is no longer one of them. Her story coming up, and some good news for those who are continuing to wait.
Are you anticipating a third wave and for us to go backward at any point in the near future?
That is a distinct possibility.
That warning from Canada's Chief Public Health Officer during an interview with Melanie Ng on Breakfast Television. Dr. Theresa Tam saying Thursday, with the spread of more contagious coronavirus variants here in Canada, now is not the time to let down our guard. With the vast majority of Canadians not immune to COVID-19 and waiting for the country's vaccination rollout to pick up, Dr. Tam says steps proven to slow the spread of the virus are still needed. This as more regions are easing restrictions.
If you don't have these measures in place and you don't have good testing, tracing, and isolation, if the variant comes in, it's going to take off.
Already, Dr. Tam says the variant first detected in the UK is quite widespread in Canada, detected in 10 provinces. Also Thursday, an update on the key tool in the fight against the pandemic.
We're now coming out of this period of limited supplies into an abundance of supplies.
Major General Danny Fortin unveiling a new timeline for vaccine supplies in Canada after weeks of delays.
This week, we received 403,650 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech, and the arrival in Canada was slightly delayed due to weather on the East Coast. All doses are now in country, and distribution to provinces is now underway and will be completed by the end of this week. Next week, we are expecting to receive 475,000 doses. We anticipate receiving 444,000 doses each week in March.
And when Moderna's deliveries are factored in, Canada is now due to receive around 29 million doses by June, 5.1 million more than first projected. And if more vaccine candidates are approved, the latest government forecast shows up to 64% of Canada's population could be inoculated by the end of the second quarter. The significant scaling up, as Forte calls it, would be a boost to Canada's poor global ranking. According to Oxford's Our World in Data, Canada currently sits 51st in per capita vaccinations. Now looking ahead, Dr. Theresa Tam telling Breakfast Television she will be releasing new modeling for the coronavirus in Canada that factors in the more contagious variants. The new forecasts are coming Friday morning. Melissa Duggan, City News.
Oh, the race is on.
This was Langley resident Carrie McKay on her last day in the ICU due to COVID-19. And this was her on her first. The scary journey documented through a series of Facebook posts and how the illness, devastating as it was, led her to a friendship that she thinks will last a lifetime.
What else did I do? Dance lessons, yoga, all that kind of stuff. And everything just sort of gradually got whittled away.
Beth Miller is getting back to her favorite pastimes thanks to a recent double lung transplant, and she's not alone. A total of 451 people in BC received a life-saving transplant in 2020 that is down somewhat from previous years due to COVID's impact, mainly on kidney transplants. But at the same time, the province saw a record number of lung and heart transplants and matched a previous high for liver transplants.
Did you see that coming, or was this a surprise for you?
Well, it was a surprise. I mean, earlier on, during the first wave of COVID, we were very concerned about what was going to happen.
There are currently more than 1.5 million registered to donate an organ in BC's registry, but Dr. Keenan says the waits can still be long, and COVID has presented a new challenge where even if someone is registered to donate but dies of COVID-19, they're no longer an eligible donor.
I mean, we obviously want to respect anybody's wishes to be a donor. That's very important to us, but even more important is safety of recipients.
Beth is a recipient herself and a teacher. She's lived in Squamish for nearly 24 years and describes herself as outdoorsy and loves to ski.
2006, that I was diagnosed with scleroderma, which is an autoimmune disease.
That's what led to serious damage to Beth's lungs. She had to stop working and was on oxygen full time.
I had a big, awful beast of a machine in my house that made a ton of noise.
Beth stayed optimistic. She kept a routine, brought oxygen to the gym, took Tai Chi, and socialized while she waited for new lungs.
I waited for, I think it was 3.5 years.
By then, she describes her life as having been whittled down, out of breath at seemingly simple activities like walking up a hill.
How have things changed for you?
After the surgery, it was just new horizons again. It was like rediscovering all these things that I hadn't been able to do for so long.
Whether it's yoga, maybe going skiing, whatever it is that you're going out there and doing, has having a time in your life when it was not an option changed those activities for you now, present day?
Today I was snowshoeing in the Callahan and up and down hills. It's and recognizing when I'm out there, just having moments of, I can breathe this in, I can do this again. And I didn't realize how much I missed it until I was able to get back out and do it again. So it's been fabulous. It really has been.
Beth joins Dr. Keenan sharing gratitude to those who choose to donate and to those on the front lines doing the work to connect donors to recipients.
And they're just extraordinarily dedicated people, and they made all the difference, I think.
As of January, over 1,700 people are still waiting for an organ transplant in BC. In Vancouver, David Zura, City News.
3, 2, 1, plunge.
Get ready to get cold, as this weekend marks the first of the ever virtual polar plunge for Special Olympics BC. Plungers are asked to register online and get creative with how they dive in. Members of local law enforcement are also raising money and taking a dip. Plunger and athlete Ashley Addy explains where she plans to take the plunge this year and why she enjoys the Special Olympics.
It doesn't matter what your differences are or what your disability is, you're accepted for who you are. Do it right here in Kamloops River. Most every year the plunge is either Victoria or Vancouver, and transportation's always been a barrier, and as much as I'd like to participate, I can't get there. So the fact that it's gone virtual, it means people all over the province can participate now, regardless where they're from.
It's really neat to see all the different police agencies coming up with unique ideas for how to do the virtual plunge.
And then I think with all our fingers crossed, we'll all be back together again next year and be able to enjoy the plunge together. And it's freezing for a reason. We're raising money for Special Olympians, and we're proud to do it.
City TV is a proud sponsor of this event, which is virtual this year. It runs from February 20th to March 7th. Registration is at plungeforspecialolympics.com.
You're in here for like ever.
Ending up in the ICU with COVID-19 is a situation one Langley woman never thought she'd find herself in. Almost as surprising, finding a new best friend in the hospital bed beside her.
No one will ever understand what we went through together, and to have someone to share it with means so much.
Carrie McKay says she doesn't smoke or have any underlying health conditions, so she was terrified when she began having difficulty breathing and was admitted to the intensive care unit.
First in the room by myself, and then they wheeled another bed in, and I heard her coughing and hacking, and I was thinking, uh-oh, do I want to be in a room with another COVID person?
Next day, she was, hi, neighbor. I'm like, hi. She's like, my name's Carrie. And I said, my name's Ann.
A friendship was born. The pair spent 14 days together going through everything from coughing fits to practicing their breathing.
Bonded so well that I would remind her to do her puffer. I would remind her to do her breathing. I would remind her to do certain things. Roll on your side, take a breath. If she would have a coughing spell, I would say, breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just relax and try and breathe. And we would do that for each other because we didn't have anybody else doing that. The nurses weren't in there all the time.
It was a scary experience, and with hospitals not allowing visitors, the pair were thankful to have each other.
We get to hug each other for the rest of the day. If she wasn't there, I don't think I would have gotten better as quickly.
No way we would have healed as fast as we did if you were in a room all by yourself, no one to talk to, no one to share things with. Like, we shared everything.
The pair left the ICU together on Valentine's Day, having beaten the virus and gaining a new lifelong friend.
Oh, the race is on.
Ashley Burr, City News.
I just don't understand what the point of that.
We hear a lot of stories like this.
A video shot by a black grade 10 student in Metro Vancouver shows her recent experience where at least one middle schooler repeatedly directs a racial slur at her.
So for what though? Is there a problem?
In the video's description posted on Instagram by Black Vancouver, it appears to quote the grade 10 girl, saying she was on a popular app called House Party when she says she encountered 3 middle schoolers. During a conversation with 2 of the boys, one of them is clearly heard using the word again and again.
Is this young man aware of the history of the word and the potential impacts it can have on people?
Adam Rutter is with BC Community Alliance, a group that describes itself as combating anti-black racism, and he's commending the young woman behind the camera.
I think I can confidently say that the Black community is proud of her for the way that she dealt with it. She sounded educated, she was calm, and she took on the burden, which I think is extremely generous of her in this particular context.
Now in the video, there's another boy we hear from. It's a contrast from the one who repeatedly shouted a racial slur in the background.
Shut up, Stina.
Because I don't know you.
I didn't mean to join your house.
I know, but like, why did you join in the beginning saying that? Like, for what reason?
Bro, that wasn't me.
Yeah, but like, why are you friends with people like that?
They're good friends. They say stupid shit.
Do you know the origin of where that comes from?
He doesn't use the word and describes his friend's comments as stupid, even sounding apologetic at one point.
What is the power within peer groups of that person, that voice of reason, to redirect people who are lost on this front to somewhere better? What is the power of the person who can be a positive influence in those situations?
I mean, I would imagine that it's enormous. It's also very tricky. My sense is that even the young man who was telling the other boy to be quiet just had a better sense for what's commonly acceptable. So whether or not I see him as an ally or not, It remains to be seen.
School District 43 in Coquitlam has issued a written statement saying they are now aware of the incident and that we are addressing the situation using a multidisciplinary approach and protocol, which includes our CMP and other community partners.
What have we seen are the most effective tools for reaching out to people, especially at this age, for them to really listen and to really be a part of it and to create growth there that is genuinely positive in the long run?
We have to sit down and we have to start learning about one another. So in this case, what I think would be, and this is sort of idealistic almost at this point, would be to have a conversation between that young man and the community that was affected.
The district declined to provide any other details regarding the children involved or what schools have been affected. In Vancouver, David Zura, City News.